Somewhere in your house right now, water is moving that you never asked for. Not a drip you can hear, not a lead that shows up as a number on your bill every month, and you pay it without knowing what you're paying for. For most homes I've walked, that quiet leak runs somewhere between $20 and $60 a month. Over a year, that's the cost of a good water heater, gone down a pipe you can't see. And the spot where it hides is smaller than a dime. Let me tell you what people blame first, because they're almost always looking in the wrong room. The first suspect is the shower. Long showers, the teenager, the low-flow head somebody swears is broken. And it's true. A 10-minute shower moves real water, maybe 17, 20 gallons depending on the head. But here's the thing. Showers are predictable. You take about the same number every week. If your bill was steady for 2 years and then climbed, the shower didn't change. Your habits didn't invent $40 a month overnight. People stand in the bathroom timing their kids with a stopwatch, and meanwhile the real thief is running 6 feet away behind the porcelain, and nobody's looking at it. So the shower is mostly innocent. The second suspect is the faucet, the drip at the kitchen sink that keeps you up. And yes, fix it. But let me put a number on it so you stop losing sleep over the wrong thing. A faucet that drips once a second wastes about 5 gallons a day. That's real, but it's a few dollars a month at most. Even a steady, thin stream of a faucet, the kind that won't quite shut, comes in under what most people think. A dripping faucet is a nuisance. It is not the reason your bill doubled. People spend a Saturday chasing a faucet washer while the real bleed keeps running in another room entirely. The third suspect is irrigation, and this one's fair in summer. A sprinkler zone stuck open, a cracked line under the lawn, a controller running 2 cycles because somebody said it twice and forgot. A single stuck valve can move hundreds of gallons before you ever notice a soft spot in the yard. If your bill spikes only in July and settles in October, look outside. But if the bill is high in January, when the ground is frozen and the sprinklers are shut off at the backflow, the yard is not your problem. Water doesn't run through a drained line. The fourth suspect is the water heater, and this one fools smart people. A tank with a weeping pressure relief valve or a slow seep at the drain valve at the bottom can send water quietly down a nearby floor drain where you never see it. It's worth a look, but a water heater leak usually leaves a rust stain, a mineral trail, a little corrosion crust on the fitting. It shows itself if you crouch down and look. It rarely hides for a year. And the last suspect, the one everybody lands on when they give up, is the water company. The meter's wrong. Somebody misread it. In 35 years, I've seen a genuinely bad municipal meter maybe twice, and both times it was reading low, in the homeowner's favor. The meter is a dumb, honest machine. It counts what goes through it. If it says you used it, you used it. The water went somewhere in your house. So let's go find it. Here's where I earn my keep. 10,000 houses, and when the bill is high, and the yard is dry, and the faucets are tight, the answer is almost always the same fixture. It's the toilet. Specifically, it's the flapper. That soft rubber disc at the bottom of the tank, the one connected to the flush handle by a little chain. It's a part that costs about $8, and when it fails silently. No running sound, no trickle you can hear from the hallway. The water slips past it so slowly, so smoothly, that the surface of the bowl barely moves. You could stare at that bowl for a full minute and swear nothing was wrong. Let me tell you what a bad flapper looks like when I pull the tank lid. The rubber should be firm and slightly flexible. A clean matte black. A failed one is glossy in patches where minerals have polished it, and the underside feels slick, almost soapy, like a bar of soap left in water too long. Sometimes it's warped, curled at one edge so it can't seat flat. Sometimes it's gone soft and mushy, and when you press it, it doesn't spring back the way new rubber does. It just holds the dent. And here's the tell nobody looks for. I run my finger around the rim of the flush valve, the plastic seat the flapper drops onto, and I feel for grit. Hard water leaves a fine crust of mineral right on that sealing edge. The flapper lands, but it lands on sand. It never fully closes. Water threads through the gap and runs down into the bowl, down the drain, through your meter, and onto your bill. Around the clock, while you sleep, while you're at work, while you're on vacation for 2 weeks wondering why nobody's home but the meter's still spinning. There's a second offender in that same tank, and it hides behind the flapper so people never suspect it. The overflow tube. That's the vertical plastic pipe in the middle of the tank with the open top. If the fill valve is set too high, or the float is worn, the tank fills past the line and pours straight down that tube into the bowl. Same silent result. No sound, no puddle, just water leaving continuously over the lip of a tube. You check it by looking at the water line inside the tank. It should sit about an inch below the top of that overflow tube. If the water's right at the rim, or trickling into it, there's your leak. And it isn't the flapper at all. I mention it now because when we test, I want you to know both places water can escape. The mechanism is simple once you see it. Your toilet tank holds water. When you flush, the flapper lifts and lets the tank dump into the bowl. Then it drops and seals, and the fill valve refills the tank to a set line. That's the whole system. 3 moving parts. And they've barely changed in 100 years. But when the flapper doesn't seal, the tank water slowly leaks into the bowl. The tank level drops. The fill valve senses the drop and turns on to top it off. Sometimes you catch a faint refill hiss in the middle of the night, a ghost flush. The toilet running for 10 seconds with nobody in the room. That's the machine topping off what leaked out. But most of the time, the leak is so slow, the valve just weeps, feeding the tank a trickle that exactly matches what's leaking out. Equilibrium. Silent. A little machine that runs your water meter 24 hours a day and never makes a sound loud enough to wake you. And it gets worse in hard water country, which is most of the middle of this country. The same minerals that crust your shower glass crust that flapper seat. So the harder your water, the faster the seal goes, and the more you pay for the privilege of dissolved rock eating your $8 part. In soft water towns, a flapper might last 10 years. In the limestone belt, I've seen them fail in 18 months, glassy and warped, seat gritty as a driveway. But stay with me, because the next part decides whether you pay $8 once or $8 worth of water every single week for the rest of the time you own this house. Let's do the math, because this is where the number gets ugly. A slow flapper leak, the kind you cannot hear, moves anywhere from a couple hundred to a couple thousand gallons a day, depending on how bad the seal is. Call the middle of that road. A moderate silent leak wastes around 200 gallons a day. That's 6,000 gallons a month. In most towns, water plus sewer runs you somewhere between $6 and $12 per 1,000 gallons, because you pay to bring it in and you pay to send it out. Most people forget the sewer half. That water passed through the bowl and out to the treatment plant. So you get billed twice for the same runaway gallon, once coming and once going. So 6,000 gallons is $36 to $72 a month on the low, quiet end of a bad flapper. Now stretch it. Say the leak's been running 18 months before you noticed the bill creep. Because it came on gradually. And you blamed the weather, the guests, the teenager. 18 months at $50 is $900. $900 gone past a rubber disc that costs less than a sandwich. That's the whole game right there. The micro cost is $8 and 20 minutes. The macro consequence is $900 and counting, plus that sewer surcharge on water that did nothing but pass through your bowl on its way to the treatment plant. And unlike a burst pipe, there's no drama to make you act. A burst pipe floods a ceiling, and you call somebody that hour. A silent flapper just quietly bills you month after month. And the cruelest part is you get used to the new number. You start thinking that's just what water costs now. Prices went up. Everything's more expensive. That's the world. It isn't. That's the leak. And it'll keep telling you that story every 30 days until you stop it. So before you spend $1, let's prove it. This is the test, and it takes 2 minutes and costs nothing. Take the lid off your toilet tank and set it somewhere safe, flat, out of the way. That lid is heavy porcelain and cracks the second it hits tile, so respect it. Lay it on a towel on the floor, not balanced on the edge of the sink where a dog or a knee can knock it. Now look inside. First, check that water line against the overflow tube like I told you, an inch below the top. Now you want a few drops of dark food coloring, or one of those blue toilet dye tablets if you have one. Red, blue, green, doesn't matter as long as it's dark. Drop it in the tank, not the bowl. Give it a gentle swirl with your finger so the color spreads through the tank water. Now walk away. Do not flush. Do not use that bathroom. Go make coffee, fold laundry, whatever. Give it 15 minutes, and 30 is better. The slower the leak, the longer you need to let it tell on itself. Come back and look in the bowl. Not the tank, the bowl. If the water in the bowl has picked up any color at all, even a faint tint of that dye, you have your answer. There is no honest way for tank water to reach the bowl in 15 minutes without a flush. If it's colored, water is leaking past that flapper, silently, exactly the way I described. If the bowl is still clear after 30 minutes, your flapper's sealing, and you go look at the overflow tube, the fill valve, or your irrigation instead. Do this on every toilet in the house, one at a time. I've walked into homes with 3 toilets where 2 tested clean, and the guest bath, the one nobody uses, had been bleeding for a year because out of sight really is out of mind. The toilet you flush least is the one most likely to be robbing you, because a still flapper crusts up faster than one that gets exercised. Label them in your head as you go, or on a scrap of paper. Main clear, master clear, powder room blue. You want to know exactly which one to fix before you touch a wrench. When the dye shows up, here's how you fix it, cheapest to best. The good tier, and honestly the right tier for most people, is a new flapper, $8 to $15 at any hardware store. Shut the water off at the little valve behind the toilet, turn it clockwise until it stops. If that valve's stiff, go slow. Old shutoffs can snap. Flush to empty the tank, then sponge out the last inch in the bottom. Unhook the old flapper from the 2 pegs on the sides of the overflow tube, unclip the chain from the handle arm, and note how long that chain was set. Bring the old flapper to the store and match it, because they are not universal, no matter what the guy in the aisle says. 2 inch is standard on older toilets, 3 inch is common on newer ones, and putting the wrong size on is how people end up back at the store twice in one afternoon. Snap the new one on, hook the chain with a little slack, a ½ inch of play, no more, turn the water back on, let it fill, and run the dye test again to confirm. 20 minutes, start to finish. That's the whole repair, and for most toilets it's genuinely all you need. Before you do that though, feel that valve seat with your finger, the plastic rim the flapper lands on. If it's rough, gritty, or pitted, a new flapper will land on the same bad surface and leak again in a month. Here's the absolute rule, and I want you to carry it out of this video. The flapper is only as good as the seat it lands on. Clean the seat, or the new part fails. For that, the better tier is a flapper plus a valve seat repair. There's a kit, about $15 to $20, that gives you a smooth ring you epoxy or press onto the old rough seat so the new flapper has clean rubber-to-plastic contact. Or you gently sand the mineral crust off the existing seat with fine sandpaper or an abrasive pad, then wipe it clean with a rag before you set the new flapper. Better seat, better seal. And it lasts years instead of months in hard water. The best tier, when the toilet's old and the whole flush valve is corroded or cracked, is a complete flush valve and fill valve rebuild kit. $30 to $50 replaces every working part inside the tank, so you start clean, fresh flapper, fresh seat, fresh fill valve, fresh float. This one means disconnecting the tank from the bowl, which means dealing with the tank bolts and the big rubber gasket underneath, and that's a little more of a job, maybe an hour if everything cooperates. If those tank bolts are rusted solid, and on a 20-year-old toilet they will be, you can crack the porcelain trying to force them. That's the honest limitation of the do-it-yourself path. A cracked tank turns an $8 fix into a $150 toilet, and now you've made it worse, and you've got water on the floor to boot. So here's the Call a Pro line. If your toilet is older than you can remember, if the tank bolts are rusted, or if you've replaced the flapper twice and the dye still shows up, stop and call a licensed plumber. At that point, you may have a warped tank, a hairline crack in the flush valve body, or a supply problem, and a good plumber will diagnose it in 10 minutes and charge you less than the second toilet you're about to break. There's no shame in it. Know the edge of your own toolbox. The plumbers are going to disagree with me in the comments, tell you every toilet needs a full rebuild and a service call. Let them. I only report what I find, and what I find is that 90% of these are an $8 flapper and a Saturday morning. Let me tell you about a house outside Des Moines. Retired couple, careful people, watched every dollar. Their water bill had climbed from about $40 a month to $110 over 2 years. So slowly they'd stopped questioning it. They'd already had the meter checked. It was fine. They called me because they were sure they had a slab leak, and they were bracing for a floor to come up and a $4,000 bill. The wife had already been pricing hotels for the week they figured they'd be torn up. I put dye in all 3 tanks. Main bath, clear. Master, clear. The powder room off the entry, the one they used maybe once a week when company came, the bowl went blue in about 8 minutes. The flapper was warped and glassy, and the seat had a ring of mineral you could feel like sandpaper. $11 flapper, a repair ring on the seat, 25 minutes on my knees in that little room. Their next full bill came in at $44. They'd been paying roughly $700 a year to keep a toilet nobody used topped off with water. It dumped straight down the drain. $700 a year past a part that cost $11. So here's where you are. You can spend $8.20 this weekend, or you can keep paying that quiet bleed every single month for as long as you own the house and never hear a thing. The leak doesn't care which you choose. The meter just keeps counting either way. Do me the dye test, all of them, even the one nobody flushes. Then tell me 2 things down in the comments. First, tell me your state and what you pay for water and sewer per 1,000 gallons, because those numbers swing wildly, and I want to see the spread. And second, if you've ever pulled the lid off a toilet tank in your own house, tell me what that flapper looked like when you finally saw it. Glossy? Warped? Crusted with rock? And once you've stopped the water you can't hear, ask yourself the next question. What's warm air doing leaking out of that same house, and why is the room over the garage always the cold one?